Hello and good afternoon. My name is Beverly Thompson, and on this hangout, this will be a discussion, a professional development session to discuss legal, ethical, and social issues that teachers and students may face in the classroom. So, first of all, we're going to start by bringing up this. All right. So, first, we're going to start with legal issues. And the first issue that we'll be discussing is fair use. So, fair use is important for students and teachers to understand because both have a right to quote another's work. Although, when quoting another person's work, students and teachers need to know how to determine what they are doing follows the guidelines of fair use. There are four factors to consider and evaluate. These factors are the purpose and the character of the work. So the purpose is for non-profit educational uses, and then the nature of the copyrighted work, which could include nonfiction or factual work, the amount of work that will be copied, so small amounts of work, small amounts of the original author's work, and then the effect of copying upon the potential market for the work. So, by reviewing each of these factors, it will make sure that students and teachers' work are factual and more reliable. And when using different digital materials, teachers and students need to follow different regulations. With motion media, people are allowed up to 3 minutes of the video to be used in a project, whereas more than 30 seconds of music and other hearing media can be used, only 30 seconds of that. And then when using graphics such as photographs or illustrations, you're not allowed to use no more than 5 pieces of that work by the certain artist in a single project. Also, no matter what digital material a person chooses to incorporate in their work, they must cite all the work they're using that belongs to another person. So that is just one of the most important things to do during fair use is giving credit to the person that you're using their work. So, for teachers to use in the classroom, there's a few practical tips that they can use when implementing fair use. Um, so first, in the classroom, teachers should write out fair use guidelines that explicitly and tangibly that are covered in a handout that can be proven that you gave out. So this means that teachers should give each student a form to have them and their parents read over and sign. So a few of these things that could be put in there is that the student understands that they will be using another person's work, but they will also give that credit and they understand what they can use and how they would use it, and that they know how to cite work. In the handout, it should discuss plagiarism. I also believe that in the classroom, teachers should give a lesson about plagiarism so students know fully what is expected of them. Um, and then with plagiarism, they'll know how to cite information from articles, websites, music, or graphics. Also, the four factors of fair use should be described so that students understand the concept of fair use fully. And then next in legal issues, we have Creative Commons. Creative Commons is where people can create, copy, and distribute work while their credit for the work is preserved. Um, Creative Commons have many benefits for teachers and students. The CC approach encourages value-adding work from the existing ones, but also facilitates learners to monitor and reflect the origins. Um, so this pretty much means that the owner and the creator of the original work still owns the rights of his work, but allows others to use some of his or her ideas to add to their topic or their project that they're discussing. There are many websites and sources that teachers and students can find Creative Commons resources. The first spot that I looked at and that I definitely think that and recommend that others should look at this, especially teachers, um, is the Creative Commons website. And here's the link right here for you to click on. Um, and this website gives detailed instruction on Creative Commons and how to access them. Another source that allows users to access others' work and add value is the Open Educational Resources. It's a little different than Creative Commons, but this website allows you to look at people's teachers' lessons plans and activities that they have published on this website to take and kind of make your own, but just make sure that you still give credit to their work. And then this was bringing up the website. All right, so the Creative Commons has 6 licenses. The 4 primary licenses are attribution, non-commercial, no derivative, and share alike. Attribution states that a person's work can be used by another only when credit is given to that person who originally made the work. So this goes back to the fair use of making sure that students know how to cite work, because we want to give the original author or person that originally wrote it their credit. Non-commercial allows people to copy, distribute, display, and modify the product for non-commercial purposes, while no derivative allows only verbatim copies of the original work. And then also share alike allows others to distribute derivative works only when an identical license that governs the original creator's work is applied to the work. The other 2 licenses are non-commercial share alike and non-commercial no derivative. So they just combine and have a little bit of different things for both of those. All right. So again, this is for teachers, so I just want to make sure that I give you some tips and practical uses that you can use in your classroom to describe and really make sure that your students understand and that even you understand how to address these issues in the classroom. So Creative Commons. In the classroom, Creative Commons can help the teacher to teach his or her students about copyright laws and what they can and cannot use of other people's work. Also, if Creative Commons can be a great resource for teachers because they can collaborate with the ideas from others, but also making it their own. If teachers make it their own, you can really take someone else's, use ideas from someone else's and really make sure that it is beneficial for your students, such as your students' different learning styles. You can take this and you can make it and target towards their specific learning style and how they'll learn best. If teachers are going to use the CC approach in their classroom, they need to provide a handout describing what Creative Commons is, where they can find the resources, and what resources do not fall under Creative Commons. All right, so next we're going to discuss an ethical issue that you could have in your classroom, which is digital divide. So digital divide is in education today, schools are trying to close the gap of digital divide. So pretty much some students' digital divide is where some students have access to the internet, to different electronic sources, whereas some students don't. So this one is going to be talking about socioeconomic, the digital divide. It states that from 1994 to 2002, the percentage of classrooms in high poverty areas internet access grew from 2% to 89%. So we definitely have been making a lot of strides to close the gap of digital divide in aspect of socioeconomic. mean, this is a huge jump from 2% to 89%. There also have been many strides to closing digital divide. More and more schools are receiving funds and grants to supply children with technological access while in school. Children's access to computers in school may be growing, but students still have trouble getting the necessary resources of technology at home. Table 2 shows statistics and percentage of students in kindergarten, first grade, and third grade that have access to the internet and computers in both school and home, um, based on their socioeconomic statuses. So if we look at the graph, it has the different categories, the kindergarten, grade 1, and grade 3. So in high poverty areas, about 79.1% of the students have computers in school. But that goes down to about 34.7% of high poverty kindergarten students have access to it at home. And then for first grade, it goes the same, that more students have access to the computer at home than they do at school in first grade. But then it also decreases in percentage in third grade. So there definitely aren't getting the necessary, and the same thing goes for low poverty as well. So they're definitely not getting the necessary resources that they need, and there is still a divide. But if we continue with trying to close the gap and trying to get those funds and those grants, then hopefully this gap will be closed very soon. So the ethical issues, the digital divide for age. A study conducted looked into how digital divide affected age, gender, and ethnicity. Table 3 shows that as people get older, they use less and less technology throughout the years. Technology is being used more by students in the classroom, though. So we have at age 19 or less, in 2002, 79.5% of students were using technology. And then by age 20 to 24, 71% of them were using. So it just kind of gets lower and lower as the years go. All right. So then the gender digital divide is definitely a one that I've never noticed. But now that I think back on it, I really have seen that throughout school and have noticed it. I just never really thought about it. Um, it has been known for years that there is a digital divide between boys and girls, although the gender digital divide is similar to the socioeconomic digital divide. They are similar in the aspect that today's society has made great strides in closing the gap between genders, just like they did with the socioeconomic divide. In 1995, 23.2% of the male students and only 16.6% of the female students reported an email address. These figures had increased to 76.6% of the male students and 67.3% of female students in 2002. So more and more female students are getting involved in technology and have interest in it, but it still is a divide that male students still have a greater access to computers, or it could just be because they have more interest in this technology. So here in table 4, it shows the percentage of both male and female students using the internet. And we can see that throughout the years, the percentage for male students have always been greater than the female students. Right. So in the classroom, some tips that teachers can use to make sure digital divide is not present is that first survey students to see if they have internet access at home. You want to fully get to know all of your students and know what their background is and what their home life is, so that you can determine how you would like them to complete activities. Like, do you want them to do it on a computer, or is it something that you can change and maybe make it a hands-on activity or project? And then also give fair opportunities to both girls and boys to use technology in the classroom. Some people say that computer programs can be more geared to boys than girls, so try to find gender neutral programs that girls would be interested in as well. And then also allow time for students to use computers in school to work on projects or presentations, because some students may not have that necessary resources to complete the projects. So now we move on to the social issues that are in the classroom. Acceptable use policy addresses what schools expect from students when using technology. Students and their guardians must sign a document saying that they agree to the terms and the conditions of the schools when using technology. Acceptable use policies have 7 components. The first of these components is missions or goal statements. In acceptable use policies, student schools need to state what they expect from their students and how they expect the students to treat the technology that they use. Some schools also find it necessary to add a disclaimer statement to the policy. This gives the student the responsibility rather than the school, because the student is the one that could have broke the computer or another technology tool. As stated before, it's important to get parents to understand and sign the disclaimer statement as well. Another component of acceptable use policy is netiquette. Netiquette is a term used to describe the proper way to communicate when using different forms of technology. Netiquette is an important aspect for all students to learn, because all throughout their life, they'll be communicating with people such as their professors, their employers, or their colleagues. Lastly, it's important that administrators include the consequences for students if they show inappropriate behavior while using the school's technology or computers. So, some practical tips for addressing acceptable use policy in the classroom are that the teacher should model and demonstrate acceptable use of technology in the beginning of the school year, but also throughout the school year. The teacher should go over the school's acceptable use policy and review it periodically through the school year, especially if students aren't following the AUP conditions that have been set for them. Continually update the acceptable use policy from year to year. This is important because technology changes, and new technology can be created. I believe that that's one of the reasons why we have so much more use of technology, that it's because new technology is being created throughout the years. And then another social issue that you may see in the classroom is cyberbullying. So, cyberbullying is acts of intentional and repeated harm that occur through online communications of text and images via computers, mobile phones, and other electronic devices. Cyberbullying has become a huge issue in schools today. In 2015, between 11% and 18% of students were being affected by cyberbullying. This is a large number of students that are being affected, and this is happening inside and outside of our schools. This graph shows the percentage of people that were affected by cyberbullying. So they have a group of females, 587, and 47.88% of them said that they have been affected by cyberbullying. And then this just shows for each group, and then this shows the ethnicity groups. So out of 52 Asian or Asian American people, 4.24% of them were affected. That's a large percentage. Some studies have also shown that females are affected by cyberbullying more than males. In 2011, the National Youth Risk Behavior Survey found twice as many girls, which was 22%, were electronically bullied compared to the boys, 11%. So it's a real issue in schools today, and teachers need to shine a light on it and try to stop the issue. So as a teacher, you're going to be looking for different signs that might say that one of your students is being cyberbullied. And some signs that you can look for are that children get angered easily and they feel powerless, or they're scared, or they're sad. Along with all these emotions, teachers may notice that their students are becoming withdrawn. They don't really want to talk or communicate with people. So those are just some signs that you can look for when you think that one of your students may be being cyberbullied. Also, some tips for preventing and addressing cyberbullying in the classroom is to educate students and their parents about cyberbullying at PTA meetings. Ask the school's technology specialists to set up internet filtering systems. In the classroom, teachers can set up lessons describing how cyberbullying can affect their classmates. For example, students can hear stories from other students that have been hurt by cyberbullying, because this is a real issue in our society today with the amount of technology that we have. All right, so those were just some issues, and here's my reference page that you can look up and you can find and really get to research more if any of these topics interest you and you really want to learn more about these. Here are some resources that you can look. And then, of course, those are citations, so that goes good with the legal issues in classrooms. So, all right. So I just want to touch, kind of describe those topics a little bit so you have a background in it, and that you can take what you've learned today and you can use it in your classroom to really benefit yourself and your students. So I hope you learned a lot and that you'll use this for your professional development. All right, bye.